Yeah, Brandis, the Chicago Bears bid for Arlington International Racecourse has oddsmakers in a bind. Is it a bluff, or are the Bears really considering leaving Chicago? Plus, there are other dark horses in the race to buy that site. And here's what Mayor Lori Lightfoot, a Bears season ticket holder herself, had to say about all of it.
Frankly, I'm not sure exactly what they want, but we are open to the conversation. I think it's important. I say this as much as the mayor, but also as a 20-plus year season ticket holder of the Chicago Bears, that there is some interest in improving the fan experience at Soldier Field, in them being able to maximize the profitability of the stadium, and I'm totally supportive of that.
And joining us are Alan Sanderson, a sports economist at the University of Chicago. He's written on the economic impact of big-ticket events like the Olympics, Super Bowl games, and sports facilities. And Mark Gannis, president of sports business consulting firm Sports Corp. He's also a sports facility specialist and worked on the sale of the Cubs from the Tribune Company to the Ricketts family, among many other projects. Good to see both of you again. I know you can't see me there on Zoom, but welcome back. And I'll start with you, Mark. So this Bears bid for that Arlington Park land, in your eyes, is this a bluff to get more out of the city, or could they really leave Chicago?
I think this is very serious. This is not a bluff. The Bears had been looking for decades, if people remember, in various suburban locations. They purchased an option on some farmland in the western suburbs. They looked at Gary, Indiana. They looked at Arlington Park years ago. This is something the Bears are taking, I believe, very seriously. It's something I think they'd like to do. I do not see this as a bluff. I don't see this as just to gain negotiating leverage with the city. If you look at where these NFL stadiums are going, what they need to be for future generations, you need a lot of land, you need a lot of programmatic space, and you need a building that can be expanded as needed. So you can't really do that at Soldier Field. You can't do that at Soldier Field. So one way or another, you'd have to look for a new facility, a new stadium. Is that possible that it's in the city of Chicago? Of course, it's possible.
And
but Arlington Park seems quite likely.
And Ellen Sanderson, the mayor, says she's willing to work on improving the stadium experience and profitability of Soldier Field. What needs to be done to make those things happen at that site in Soldier Field to keep it attractive for the Bears to stay there?
Well, the Bears made a mistake 20 years ago when there are other places they could have gone and there's renovations that could have been done. It's maybe the worst stadium in the NFL, and it's the Bears' fault. Okay, I look at a little bit as the old joke of the kid who kills his parents and then asks for mercy from the court because he's an orphan. The Bears did this to themselves. The other issue here is one way or another, it's $1 billion. If there's a new facility somewhere. And the question is not just, are the Bears going to Arlington Heights, or are they going to someplace else in the city, but who's going to pony up the $1 billion? Certainly Arlington Heights I don't think wants to pay that. The city doesn't want to pay much, and the Bears don't. So you're going to have to find somebody who wants to.
Well, one of the ways they
pay a lot of money. And let me add one other thing too, is that one of the things that's happened over time, not just in the NFL, but sports in general over the last 30 years, 40 years, television has changed dramatically. Most of the Bears' revenue, most of any NFL team's revenue comes from television. It's a much better experience unless you're on the 50-yard line to watch the game at home when you're warm and beer is only $1 instead of 10. And so in some ways, it doesn't much matter where they play because their revenues are going to come from television, not from gate receipts.
And Mark Gannis, the Bears are stuck in a lease at Soldier Field till 2033 until all the debt is paid off by the Illinois Sports Facility Authority. Can they break that lease early? Would it be cost effective to pay a penalty to break that lease to move sooner if that's what they want to do?
Well, there are some provisions in the lease that allow for some fees to be paid potentially for early termination. But this is not a short-term proposition by the Bears. It usually takes 5 to 7 years from inception until you open the doors anyway. 2033 is only 12 years away. So you're looking at maybe a 5 or 6 year delta in there. They could work, if they decide to go there, the best deal the city could do is to negotiate a way for them to buy out of the lease early so the city could use that money for other purposes if it comes to that point.
You know, Alan Sanderson, there's been a private developer talking about a massive development over the train tracks just west of Soldier Field. It'd be a transit hub. It would house Bears Hall of Fame, other game day experiences. Is that the kind of thing that, were it to be approved with public funding, that would sweeten the pot to keep the Bears at Soldier Field, even though you're saying most of the money comes from TV?
Well, the issue is that there are two things that you do not want to build on a valuable piece of real estate, and Soldier Field is a valuable piece of real estate. One is a cemetery, and the other is a NFL stadium. Football stadiums are economic losers for their communities. Okay? Their utilization rate is so low compared to any other facility. Now, could the Bears make a go of it financially? Would it be a profitable, a good investment? No. Okay, that's just a football stadium, no matter where it is, that's not going to happen. Also, I shouldn't say this as a South Sider, but the Chicago Cubs are the only of our major franchises in town that have a positive economic impact on the city. Everybody inside Soldier Field to watch a Bears game is from Chicago. The same for the Blackhawks, the Bulls, and my White Sox. That they're spending the money there in 3 hours of their time and $100 instead of at the mall or a concert or restaurant or something else. The Cubs draw significantly from outside the city, so they bring money in. Football just doesn't.
So you're saying it's not bringing people from outside the city. It might not be a loss economically for Chicago if the Bears were to leave. Very quickly, Mark Gannis, because we are out of time, but would it be a loss of fans if the Bears were no longer to call their home Soldier Field in Chicago, or would fans get over it?
Oh, there wouldn't be a loss of fans. As Alan said, they watch on television primarily, and the ones that go to the games, it's about 60,000 per game, smallest stadium in the NFL right now, by the way. You may get a change in the mix of the people at the games, but you'll still sell out the stadium even if you added 10 or 15,000 seats. So no loss at all of any fans.
All right. Well, it's a fascinating discussion, and we do have an invite out to Bears chairman George McCaskey. We want to discuss this with him and other things about the franchise. And our thanks right now to Alan Sanderson and Mark Gannis. Thanks so much for joining us.
Take care, Paris.
You too.